Wow, what an amazing man Gary Moser is. I mean, when I first came onto YouTube and I discovered Gary, I thought, wow, look at this character. Look at this guy go off. Just like Oscar the Grouch, bitching and moaning. And I was endeared to Oscar the Grouch. I watched Sesame Street growing up, and Oscar would cuss, bitch, and moan, and whine, and make fun of everyone he could. He was the garbage can clown. Just like Gary. Gary is the most amazing, beautiful garbage can clown that YouTube has known. And I sat there and I thought, yeah, well, I've listened to Gary say his things, and occasionally I want to tune in and tap on the play button and see how and who he's kind of trying to march over and treat like crap a little bit, right? I actually even felt left out, like, God, I gotta say something to this guy just to piss him off, just to get on his shit list, right? Just so he can record and make fun and say shit about me, because I wouldn't want to be left out, right? I'd like to be like the people this guy makes fun of. Even so much so that I stopped a few people who were thinking about making fun of Gary, and I said, no, come on, look, the guy doesn't have a college education. He doesn't get it, right? I didn't know about his stroke. I didn't know that Gary might be a dipshit because he lost part of his brain, right? But that it was due to having a stroke, and I'm like, wow, what a, But as I got to know him, I'm thinking, wow, later on, this guy is amazing, and he's loving. I mean, the way he'll walk down a trail, and the neighbor's dogs will bark, and Gary will kind of bullshit the neighbor with some politeness, right? Doesn't want to shit in his own backyard by being mean to people that actually sees in person, right? Because he's got like 100 black eyes from people that he obviously has met in person that wanted to beat the shit out of him. So I guess he's very classically conditioned to not piss on people that he's right in front of. So he gives them face, right, as he's walking by, and he bends down at their barking dogs, and they bark back. And so maybe he pets them, maybe not. And he just loves those sentient beings walking around his house, his little kitty, his everything except for the fly he can smack out of existence, right? And then justify, right? It doesn't really matter. I'm like, wow, what a beautiful, empathetic man. Look at how much this guy cares for everybody else, every other thing that he can and he cannot possibly imagine that's lived and is living, that is sentient and nervous and animated and moving, right? And here's a guy who's put forth premises four premises of living that nobody could possibly dispute, that are the root of sentience, not just animation that is of life, but something more particular such as sentience, right? And he doesn't even abide by two of them. He's never reproduced, and he's not a cannibal. God forbid he eat anything that would be deemed sentient, because that would go against his heartfelt love for all other sentience. His knowledge of this, he walks the walk. He knows the truth of humanity. He knows the truth based on what he calls a value equation. Gary is so amazing. He can write out what this equation is. He can even do it in mathematical form for all you engineering and mathematical bastards who want to know the value equation that man has always had, because this equation has followed all aspects of reality around. Just in the air, it's got a little point, right? Kind of like the movie RoboCop, that you see the little digits go across. It's like Einstein's equation, right? Even before Einstein was around, that equation was floating all over the galaxy with its little arrow pointing to the universe. And that equation is true, and it's living, and it's there out in the world, right? It didn't take a human to write M or C or squared or E or even the equal sign. Boy, humans had no practice in that whatsoever. Even the naming of the 2 that is the square, right? 2 eyes, 2 fists, 2 something. Before humans were humans as we know them, but there was still sentience, feeling creatures. The number 2 was also floating around in the universe, being as true as Gary's heart and compassion and empathy is towards the rest of the world, right? Because Gary, God forbid, he would never make another sentient being, another one of his own kind, his own twin brother found in me and his sisters and brothers on the planet. He wouldn't want to make fun of the way they look or the way they sound or where they're from or how they act. No, Gary has an empathetic heart. He's a true God sent. Without there even being a God, he is like a prophet. He is the largest, most followed anti-natalist on the planet. And with this truth comes the truth that simply consumption and addiction, the 2 things that Gary, of the 4, that he still has to follow, right? Not to mention he does crap, right? So he is a producer, but I guess that's just a subset of consumption, right? So he is a producer, but we didn't put that in on the 4. But that doesn't really matter because the heart of Gary, it's so bright and shiny. It's so absolutely amazing. And what Gary has found is a cardinal truth. When he found out that people loved him, but then not really. He was kind of on his own, but not really. And he kind of had direction in life, but not really. He was an ant climbing up the ant pile, serving a queen ant, I guess, that finally walked away from the pile and realized, hey, there's really no point to any of this, right? But I don't want to cut myself down, right? Gary knows and chooses a logic and a free-floating, one of those free-floating pointing true equations that points back on every sentient being and every knowledgeable human being that existed. Gary holds and has found that equation that says, no, quit sticky the sticky inside of the inky because a baby comes out, right? Now, I did make a huge error. I assumed, right, that babies came from some non-variable that this Benatar guy points to and says there's a good associated with it. But Gary set me straight, right? He let me know that prevention, right? The prevention, making certain that the stick misses the hole, right? Make certain the stick misses the hole is by far better when calculating one free-floating equation, the one that he's got, right, and weighing it, like actually taking it out of the free-floating sky and putting it on a scale, right, and valuing it, and then saying, well, God, this is a lot like money. I'm going to say it's like currency. And you know what? I bet that those people would pay to not have the elephant man's disease, because Gary also wouldn't want the elephant man's disease. He wouldn't want to starve in Africa. He doesn't want to stub his toe, right? He definitely doesn't want another stroke, and he certainly doesn't want another black eye, whether or not I fly out there and give him one or not. So what I was thinking was, why should anyone else even argue with this truth, this cardinal, unmutable, that means unchangeable for you, Gary, this unchangeable truth that suffering not only sucks and has to have a moral adjective laid upon it, right? Which means that we reject it. I think we'll call that bad, right? Because I didn't just learn that sticking hole makes babies today. I also learned that ouchies are things that we really want to get rid of. But suffering is kind of like having an ouchie you can't get rid of. It's just there. Now my condition, right? My feet are on fire. Whether or not I take pain meds to get rid of the on fire, or whether or not I don't take pain meds to get rid of the fire, right? My feet are on fire. I imagine they'll always be on fire. So either I can say, ooh, that sucks. I wish I could get rid of that. I could even hypotheticalize and say, I would pay money to get rid of that. I bet I would pay all of the money I have in the bank to get rid of that. Oh, yes, indeedy. Right? Or not. Or I'll just suck it up and call it the new baseline. Right? I see that sign that floats around that it says suffering, and kind of like those free-floating true math equations that just kind of point, it always points at my feet, and it says sucks and suffering. And I always have to look at that. You guys can't see it, but for me, it's right there, right? It says suffering, and it's pointing to my feet right now. And boy, is it bad, it's annoying. So suffering and sucks is right there in front of my face, and it means that I always, because my feet are on fire, have to realize that, boy, life sucks. Everything I see is now interpreted through the words suffering and sucks. And the truth is out there. I mean, it is real after all, and Gary can write out the mathematical equation. Even after we're all gone, the mathematical equation will still free float and point to any other perhaps sentient but non-human beings around and say, oh, you fell down, went boom, like Gary did on the bunny slope and got yourself hurt? You got a few black eyes, right? You got in a fight, you poor little gazelle. You ran away from that lion, but you still got that bad scratch, and that's really bad. You know what, gazelle? Maybe if you don't go humping that other gazelle, you won't have some other replication like yourself that might suffer another ouchie from that lion's baby that might go sticking its pee-pee inside of something else and making a future lion. Boy, that cycle of life. Boy, all the ouchies that come along with just being sentient. It's absolutely amazing. But good God, thank God we got Benatar pointing to nothing to make its premises. At least Gary makes sense. He said prevention. And prevention of what? Well, prevention of kids. He points to kids. I think that if we can figure out the difference between Benatar's argument and Gary's argument on anti-natalism, then we'll get an idea of who we think is more closer to the real truth. We don't want this almost truth. We want the real truth. And we want to make certain that it matches the value equation that Gary is going to type out in his response video to this one. Because Gary, we all love you, and we all want to see you succeed, and we all want to see you become that Ferrari and have that twin and those future consciousnesses that are like you that you want to defend in the future. Yes, we do. We want to see that happen. As a matter of fact, we want you to be immortal. And we don't ever want you to feel pain ever again. We just want to see you laugh, Gary. We want to see you make fun of other people's accents and laugh at it. We want to see you smirk. We want to see you be just exactly who you are from now until eternity. Unfortunately, kind of like me, I might be in the nursing home where my young face now might be plastered onto my old face, and Gary's future common not yet around twin brother that comes from another mother will come up and smack me on the face, right? Well, Gary will have already been in the nursing home, and somebody will have already beaten his ass silly too, because they thought, "God, this guy just spouted pain and suffering all the way around." So Gary, fuck you, by the way, for writing killpook in your link below that last statement in your last video about me.